Certification to do repairs on fire escapes, and there are certain level of repairs. I think there's 3 that you have in your program. Is that right, CISCO?
Yeah, I gave a sheet.
Okay, we'll go through that. So it's about 3 levels of those. So basically, we may not even want to write the violation that says paint and scrape. We don't want to use that no more. We want to say repair. Yeah, and then you would tell them once they contact you and figure out what level of repair, then this would give you some information on what type of violation you're going to write for what level of repair you want done to fire escapes. Fire escapes are very dangerous. People that's been around here for a while know that we have lost firefighters. They have lost their lives fighting fires when they get up on a fire escape and that whole thing collapses and come down from the wall. And you have no idea how heavy that thing is once it starts to come down. So we done lost a couple of firefighters fighting fires on fire escapes. So they're dangerous not only for the people that got to use them in case there's an emergency coming out of that building, but if there's a fire in that building, the firefighters have to use those fire escapes. They're dangerous also. So this is a serious course, and we've had some of it earlier. So this is the kind of refresher course. CISCO has some new information. He's already given it to the inspectors up there in East Orange, so I asked them to come back and give it to us again, and probably later on we'll set it up so we can do it for field units also. But we're going to try to do it right here. I know it's a little tight, but we're going to try to work within the confines of this office. You might need a chair, Jimmy, if you want to roll down there.
No. So,
okay, so go ahead.
Chief Stewart is correct. 2 people that are going to use this fire escape: occupants and firefighters, right? So let's start off with the first one. Let's really talk about the occupants.
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders. Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him.
Oh, I was scared to death.
But the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files.
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes.
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
Not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
You turn on one light, the one. Yeah.
Fire escape services.
So
provide inspection.
So here we have a class that we're going to be teaching, and we teach this class nationwide, from here to Seattle, Chicago to Corpus Christi. We've taught this very same class. We record it. We're recording it now, and we'll put it up online. So there's about 20 inspection seminars like this that you can just watch. So this one we're going to try to capture as much as we can. We have one that we did in East Orange. We just did one yesterday, or 3 days ago in Springfield, Illinois. And so we have a lot of these classes available for you to utilize to know exactly what you're looking for. The main thing is we're going to keep you off the fire escapes, because that just proved that the first video said that who's getting stuck on fire escapes? The occupant, right? Now, how can you get to a building, to a structure with 50 people living in it, and they're stuck on a fire escape? This doesn't make any sense. The only way you can get stuck on a fire escape is that something's not working. So the only way they can get down is either the ladders have to come down or the cantilevers coming down. So these firefighters showed up at a big complex, and that complex didn't look, that's Bridgewater, Connecticut. Did that look any different than the complexes you have here?
No.
Same exact complexes, but they got there, and instead of fighting the fire right off the bat, what was their first priority? For minutes, and that they wasted, and every minute just keeps cooking the building. But they were trying to get people off the fire escape. Fire escape is supposed to be for self-evacuation. You get off the thing yourself. You don't wait for firemen to come and hold your hand and take you down. So if the ladder's not working properly, the cantilever's not working properly, you got a building that's a life safety issue. Wasn't that a life safety issue? 50 people. And when you listen to the story again, some people on this fire escape, some people on that fire escape, on the other building across the way that had no fire, but people were jumping on their fire escapes because they had so much smoke. So all of a sudden they had all their manpower was used to get people off, go get the ladders off the truck. Dude, there's ladders on the fire escape that are supposed to come down. It showed a hanging child. You see an 8-year-old child? Imagine your child hanging on a ladder that doesn't want to come down because the balance is out of balance. It won't come down. So we want to talk about today, and we're going to go into the class that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about just what power do you have in your very code. So if everybody was just to grab this sheet, if you don't have one, there's more sheets here. So if anybody's missing, they're right here.
I don't have any.
Yeah. You can just hand them one of these packs. But if everybody can grab one of the sheets, and let's just use this. Let me show you just what the power of the law is that you already have. So there's really no need for enforcing to write new laws, because there's a few things that we need to do in 2012 that we're changing. the fire code to add a little bit more teeth to it. And from our efforts, we've been doing this for over 5 years. Chief knows us that we've been here before. The first state to crack, believe it or not, Portland, Oregon. Everything that I'm about to talk to you today, they've implemented it. Their fire department stepped up onto this, and now they made it a state code change. And they added signage, they added load testing, they added confidence testing. So let's just read what your code says, and if the code has changed, let me know. But I believe your code says all exit discharges, exits exterior stairways. So all exit discharges. Have I talked about fire escapes yet?
Yeah.
All exit discharges. Fire escapes are those iron things. So all exit discharges. Does that mean every stairway that's exposed to the weather? Every stairway that's outside the house, every wooden stairway, every cement stairway, everything. I haven't even talked about fire escape, right? Exterior stairways. So every exit stairway, every exterior stairway is subject to your code. And fire escapes. See, they mentioned fire escapes a lot. Everybody thinks this code is for the fire escape. It's not. This code is for every exit discharge. So that means balconies, bridges, anything, the Romeo and Juliet balconies, anything that's an exit discharge that a fireman would arrive, put up his ladder against it, and discharge you from there. Every exit discharge. But let's just focus on fire escapes for this thing. Shall be kept free of snow and ice. Any fire escape or exterior stairway found to be in a state of deterioration or determined to be unsafe by the fire official shall be repaired immediately. Now here's the critical part that gives you all the power. Depending upon the structural condition, a load test, the word load there means load test, of any fire escape shall be conducted before the fire escape is returned to service in accordance with the code. Now, depending upon the structural condition, who determines the structural condition? The inspector, because you wrote the violation, so you said this doesn't look good to me, so you need to be convinced that the fire escape was repaired properly. You need some evidence. Somebody's going to go out of their way to prove to you, because if you're not convinced of the structural condition, what will you order if you have the least amount of fear or the least amount of doubt about what they did? If they just slapped some paint on a rusty fire escape? Well, they'll find you. They'll buy a piece of paper that says certification. But you get there after you've got Joe Engineer gave you a piece of paper that says it's structurally sound and satisfactory. And then you walked back there and there was still gobs of rust, gussets blown out, there was all kinds of... The guy just literally threw a piece of paper and then he bought a piece of paper from a structural engineer, because you can buy paper today, can't you? Can I convince an engineer to give me a piece of paper for $300 to $500 bucks?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so depending on the structural condition, that means you wrote the violation, you're going to be the one that's going to go there and look at it and you're like, you know what? This doesn't look good to me. Can you order, based on the code, can you order a load test? Even though they gave you a structural engineer letter that says it's satisfactory. So this is how strong the code is. It says that every one of these inspectors has the power to order a load test if they're not satisfactory. If there's, I'll just read it. Depending on the structural condition. Depending upon the structural condition. It keeps coming back to you. So whenever you have a fire escape inspected, and the fire escape has a problem, how many of you have received a report from an engineer and he's called you to discuss the findings? He's called you and shared the photographs with you. He's met you at the site to tell you what the problem is there. No. So because of that, what's happening is this, depending upon structural condition, is sort of being answered by a piece of paper that you can go to Walmart and just buy it. You know, I need an engineer letter, and you just buy it at Walmart and you bring it down to your throat, because you guys are just going to take it and throw it into a folder because your job is done. You say, I just need a piece of paper. But in actuality, you're supposed to be checking not only that piece of paper, you're supposed to be doing a final visit on that job, right? So when you go back to remove the violation because you got the piece of paper and you do your final, when you go back and you see the fire escape was, the only thing that was done on it was just a paint job, you've got two parts here, depending on the structural condition, and yet the guy hands you that piece of paper that he bought from Charlie. You say, well, I want a load test now. Because if you, does anybody know the permit requirements if you're going to paint the fire escape? Do I need to pull a permit with building inspectors?
No.
No. If I repair a fire escape, do I need to pull a building permit?
No.
Yes, you do. You touch the structure, you touch any structure, you need to pull a permit. So, For 75 years, that's how long this has been going on. For 75 years, and I'm an iron worker, and I'm out there playing on a fire escape, and you show up and you catch me with my tools out and everything going on, what am I really doing? What's my first line of defense against you? What am I doing? I'm painting the fire escape. Oh, you're not changing, well, 1 or 2 bolts, that's it. I changed all the bolts, you know what I'm saying? I did a lot of work on it, but I'm not gonna tell you that. And then I can play dumb. I said, oh, I didn't know you needed a permit. No, I'm just painting it. The guy just had me painted. Somebody else did all this work. So for 75 years, across the country, everybody's been fixing the fire escapes under a paint permit. And there is no such thing as a paint permit. Now, you've been helping out because what you guys have been writing, and I want you to write it on the back here, you guys have been writing scrape and paint violations. So let me tell you what a scrape and paint violation means to a 5-story building with a cantilever on the bottom that's been rotting for 50 years. The guy makes his first phone call and says, hey, I need a paint job on my fire escape, so they call Joe Painter. Joe Painter shows up on a 5-story and says, hey, how much to paint this fire escape? The guy walks it, looks at it, and eyeballs it and says, hey, I can paint it for about $3 grand. The guy says, oh, great. He goes, oh, by the way, there's a few loose treads and some heavy rust up there that you should get fixed before I paint it, just so that. The guy goes, oh, I'll have it looked at and have it checked out. So then he calls another guy, Bob the builder, Bob the iron worker. He comes down. He says, hey, there's a couple of loose treads up there, how much to fix it? So Bob, the iron worker, walks it, and he checks all the treads. He says, you don't got a couple of treads, you got the whole thing. All the treads are bad, you got huge rust. He goes, well, how much for a 5-story building? Oh, it's going to be about 25 grand. Your cantilever's out of balance, and we got all the cement in the walls I have to do. A lot of work. And by the way, that includes a paint job, by the way, because I also painted. I'm a Bob the builder. I'm a guy. So he's got a violation from you. He's already got 2 quotes. One's for $2,500 and one's for $25,000. And your violation that said what? What did you say? Scrape it and paint it. So everybody on the back of this sheet, which is very important, write repair, paint, test. Isn't that what your code says? Repair it, paint it, test it. Think you're going to get a phone call? When they look, they say, I got a violation from you. It says repair. They're going to ask you, repair what? What do you tell them? Is it that broken tread or that loose bolt on the rail that you saw? Is that what you're going to tell them to fix? Because you'll fix that. And just that. Do you have any authority to tell them what to fix?
Yes.
Well, you're telling the violation makes him repair it. Do you know? Do you have to specify what he has to fix? You, the inspector.
No.
No. He has to call a structural engineer. His job is to call a structural engineer and have him determine not only what you saw originally as a bad situation, is there anything else? That engineer is supposed to call you and share some thoughts with you as to what he found. That engineer is supposed to use that report and give it to the iron worker, who then uses it to put a bid on the project. That engineer must oversee the job. So let's see if that makes sense, what we're looking to do. That's why we generated this document for you. And this is nothing but repairs and procedures guidelines. In your future, you'll be able to go to the nationalfirescapeassociation.org, and a lot of these videos that you see here are going to be there, and a lot of the documentation that we're sharing with you is going to be there. So this is an association that's going to be made up of building officials, fire officials, and housing inspectors, as well as vendors who are trying to fix fire escapes, engineers, architects. This is what we have to found the National Fire Escape Association, because a lot of this information wasn't getting out there, so it's going to be in the public eye right now under the National Fire Escape Association. Okay, so now let's just read. In case you write a violation and somebody calls you up, what do I do next? Let's see if you can just send them this sheet of paper. Just fax it over to them, or drop it over to them, and see. And this is what, because there's going to be 3 parts that they're going to do on that fire escape. They're going to inspect it, they're going to repair it, and they're going to paint it. Correct? Because that's what you wrote: repair, paint, test. So let's see what this means, and we generalize this to reflect what this verbiage means down here. So I'm just going to read it in general. In layman's terms, the city official, which is you guys, is looking for a qualified licensed inspector to do a critical inspection with inspection criteria submitted prior. So do you want to hear from this engineer? This is that qualification process. He's going to call, hey, I got a call in your city, I'm going to go inspect. Can I send you how I inspect? Is that good for you guys to hear from some of these inspectors? So you want to hear from Joe Inspector, so that he's not a Walmart inspector? You want to hear from this guy? That verifies and certifies that all the connections are free of internal rust or rot, as well as all original hardware, which is either the square head bolts or the rivets, are reinforced or replaced in lieu of a live load test. That makes sense, doesn't it? So if I got a 75-year-old bolt that's in good condition, what's the only way I can guarantee it back to you? By a load test. But is there anything cheaper? Because load test is a lot of money to move a lot of weight around. Well, I can replace it if it's faster or cheaper. Can I also leave that bolt there because the guy maybe loves his bolt and it's 75 years old and there's no rust in it and it's beautiful, it's holding that connection? Can I back it up with a bolt next to it? I can drill another hole anywhere near the steel that's marrying two pieces and I put a new bolt. Keep this old bolt, put a new bolt, but whatever's faster, because sometimes it'll take me 7 minutes to drill a new hole. It takes me 2 minutes to pop out his old bolt and put a brand new one. So it's ever cheaper to the client. Otherwise, the only other question he has on a 75-year-old fire escape with all these bolts, how do you guarantee a 75-year-old fire escape with old bolts and old rivets? Load test. That's all you got. So in lieu of a load test, you can reinforce or refurbish your fire escape. So your words are constantly going to be, are you going to give me a load test? You're going to start scaring a lot of people when you keep saying the word load test. They go, well, anything else I can do besides load test? He says, yeah, you can refurbish your 75-year-old dog there and put a new line in the sand. It's called, so in lieu of a load test, can I refurbish a fire escape and sidestep this load test thing? The answer is yes. So we're now going to keep talking today about how we have all these buildings in the East Coast that are 75 plus years old with these fire escapes. And that these scrape and paints that everybody's been doing for the longest time has been basically killing firemen because it's rusty connections that are letting these firemen fall. So right now we're saying though that this guy, this engineer is verifying to you that there is no rot in any of these connections. Right? So we're not going to paint over rust. This guy's saying no, there's no rust because he's got a confidence test, he's got a document that he has to sign that he's going to provide back to you that says, no, I've verified that there's no rot in that connection. All supports, through bolt or cemented, into the wall. Can you ever see those things? Is there any way to see this connection into the wall?
No.
Unless you have an x-ray, unless you spend a couple $100 with a mason to blow out some bricks and see what's going on, or somehow go inside the building, we'll take out the sheetrock and look at it from the inside. There's no way to verify this hidden connection. So, but that's his job, right? He must, these things must be verified and certified in lieu of a live load testing, right? So people sometimes will say, well, dude, that's buried in the wall. It only amounts to 3% of the fire escape. But how many roofs that have leaked over time have come down and eaten all the supports into the wall? And you don't know that, and that's what's dropped a lot of firemen to their death, is that the fire escape has hidden defects that the veneer on the outside is not showing, but yet the building over time in 75 years has leaked many times on the roof, and it has eaten the connection. So let me ask, we need to verify that, but it's a very costly exercise. Either I'm going to destroy some sheetrock on the inside and look for this thing, or I'm going to drill some holes on the outside, and I'll show you what holes look like on the outside to basically verify. I have to call a mason in to remove so many bricks around the connections. This is a very costly situation. Is there anything cheaper that we can do to eliminate the connection into the wall? And the answer is yes. Can I just give it another connection? Can I just duplicate it? With today's epoxy bolts, anybody know what an epoxy bolt is? It's basically a 3/4 rod that's 8 to 12 inches long. Hilti makes them. And basically you drill a hole in the wall, you fill it with glue in there, which is the epoxy, and you stick this rod in there. Now this rod glues itself to all the bricks inside, and you're usually about 5 inches away from the original connection, and then from this connection you go back with a clip. So you tie it to the epoxy bolt, you tie it back to the original connection, and you leave the cement that's there, you leave it alone, you let sleeping dogs lie. So if I duplicate the connection, and I keep the original, but I duplicate it with a brand new 3/4 epoxy bolt buried 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall, do I need now to verify the old connection anymore? Do I need to load test it if I've duplicated the connection? So as soon as you duplicate the connection into a wall, you don't need to load test it anymore. How about all the treads? If I change all the bolts on the treads, do I need to load test it? Once I change all the bolts? No. So we're starting to eliminate the things that says you want to perform a load test, it's very expensive. Otherwise, you can do some refurbishments, and you should have by now anyway, because on average, wouldn't you expect to see a refurbishment of an exterior, metal, anything, on average every 25 years? You put anything outside, a fridge, a car, and you just leave it alone, you don't touch it, you don't do nothing, you never paint it. In 25 years, you're going to have to change some bolts, a door, I mean, I got AC units on top of buildings that they swap out every 15 years, every 20 years. How can a fire escape last 75 years untouched? It gets full of rust and full of connect. So it's this point that right now only 1%, 1 to 3% of all the fire escapes you're ever going to see are going to pass. 97 of them haven't been touched for 25 to 50 years. How do you expect them to pass? It's like going into a barn and trying to get an old car to start right off the bat. You know, just stick a key in and just... It's not. There's a bunch of things you're going to have to do to refurbish it and bring it back. So, so we talked about the wall now. A fire escape confidence test and tag must be submitted if the fire escape passes. And that's that questionnaire, Chief, that I sent you. And it's a very long questionnaire asking you specific questions, specific to the engineer that says, no, there is no rust inside any of these connections. I verified that. The report with photos identifying violations for repairs must include repair criteria submitted to the official for repair vendor to use as a guide during engineer oversight of permitted repairs. So I stop dropping the word permitted in there. A fire escape confidence test and tags identifying certified conditions are then submitted. Recommended cycle for live load testing after you refurbish a fire escape is every 20 to 25 years or as required by the official. So that is just the inspection. We're now making engineers speak with you when they do a fire escape inspection and talk to you about what they want to do with that fire escape and talk to you about the 50 to 75-year-old bolts and talk to you about the connections into the wall. Because you only have two things that you want. You want a load test or you want certified repairs in lieu of a load test, right? But somebody has to satisfy you because to satisfy the conditions, depending upon the structural condition, that means every engineer touching any of your buildings, they have to call you and talk to you about what they found and send you photographs. So does any of this that we've talked about, this is just for the inspectors, is this enough information so that when you write a violation that an owner can get this very same document either faxed or emailed to them? Will this give them a clue as to what needs to be done? Does it tell them who they need to call? Does it tell them what guy they need to pick? Or does it just say, here's the general idea of what we're looking for? So this is general, so they can call any engineer they want out there. Any engineer. And can they give this to their engineer? Because otherwise, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get what's called an opinion letter. Do you want opinion letters? Say, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is good? Good? Yep.
The problem that we face here is not this. When we go structural, even though we can do all this and whatnot, in this city and the way it's written in Jersey and whatnot, this comes to anything structural goes to the fire subcode and whatnot. Now the subcode and whatnot, that is his jurisdiction. We can write it, but we don't have the total right to enforce what you're talking about because the fire subcode does that in this city.
In regards to the inspection or the repairs?
In regards to the repairs, if it's structural, it goes to him. We make a recommendation to the fire subcode and whatnot that this is to be done because he's in the building department.
Yes.
If he doesn't act on it, all we can do is put in the violation and whatnot. Then the violation and whatnot goes to penalty. That's all that happens. If we don't have a penalty right now, we don't have a penalty procedure of enforcement and whatnot. We don't go to court here, even though the code says and whatnot that the city and the fire department has the right to take the individual in the court before the judge for enforcement of the violations that we write. And it stops at the fire subcode and whatnot.
I'm going to talk about the fire subcode right now, and by the way, if you're not satisfied, can you order a load test?
That's not entirely correct, because it is a maintenance violation. And the fire code subcode, he will write certain specifications on the installation of fire protection.
100 pounds per square foot.
Right, but once it is installed and it is on the building, it's our responsibility for the maintenance. So what we are talking about now is maintenance inspections.
But I'm going to cover it even on the maintenance side. You do need a permit, and I'll say this is what we expect if you're going to repair it. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a qualified licensed repair vendor, not a landscaper, okay, and to paint the fire escape and help his buddy out, to do all work under repair permits. So that brings in those guys. With engineer oversight, meaning, do you want to have a guy there that's got a big 5-story building working at whatever he wants and hiding all the stuff he wants, or do you want the engineer who is the final guy signing off on this? Do you want him there at the beginning of the job, in the middle of the job and at the end of the job, or are you going to rely on you and the subcode official to go there and double check the work and make sure everything's cool? It's not their job. Their job is to see that the person who's pulling a permit is a licensed person that has liability and workers' comp, and they're done. And there's an initial permit pull and there's a final that needs to happen. But by pulling a permit, and this what's called engineer oversight, because do you want any fire escape that you are now avoiding a load test, because that's your guarantee, right? So you throw just nothing but load tests and you forget everything else. You said, I just want load tests. That's my guarantee. But the only other way that you can guarantee, because you're sort of saying no load test, but do you want somebody else's name on a piece of paper? Do you want them to have some oversight and some responsibility there?
Of course you do.
So you have to force these engineers, what's called engineer oversight, to be there at the initial stage of, because now these vendors are working off of their report. He has to spot check them in the middle as they're going along. Not when it's all done and painted and silicone shut, because you can hide a lot with silicone. And then at the very end, once this engineer has signed off a confidence test, who still needs to show up and sign off on that? The subcode official. Right. He pulled a permit. Who's the final one when all these people have eyeballed this thing to remove the violation?
That me. Then I remove. But what I'm saying is this and whatnot. At any point of that, when you're talking about structural or this or that, when the guy gonna pull a permit to do the work and whatnot for the repairs, he gotta also submit a plan down there to the fire subcode.
The engineer does.
Yeah, the engineer does.
Right.
When he submits the plans, the blueprints and whatnot, they have to go over it and whatnot. They have to go over it and whatnot, and all that has to be done. We're not getting that cooperation from them at all.
We know.
We're not getting
It's not a perfect system, but what's happening right here,
we're not getting that.
What I'm telling you is that because people have been using your violation, scrape and paint, they've been abusing it, and nobody's been pulling a permit. So will you allow any fire escape now to be certified without a repair permit? Will you allow any fire escape certificates just to show up at your desk, comes in the mail for some address that you wrote down the street, and the engineer never called you, never submitted a report to you? Right? If it comes in the mail, you say, hey, nice, in the mail. You can call the guy, say, hey, Jackson Engineering, yeah, I need a load test in that building. Why? It's satisfactory, yeah. You didn't follow any of our guidelines. And what I want to do is talk to you. I want to meet you down there. Let's talk about a load test on that fire escape. So because it's good now, I want to load test it. Oh, what do you mean? It says right there on the code. Depending upon the structural condition, I can order a load test. So let's go down there and meet. And you get down there, you see all rust still in the connections, all rust still in the tread. You say, hey, let's load test this baby. I want you to load test. So tell the client you got to load test it now. And the guy's not, you know what that engineer's going to say? No, I'm not going to load test it. Because something might break. Something might fall. I said, dude, it can't. You told me it was certified. Do you understand? So you do have the power. So let's talk about what the repair is. Now this does, because the client, you wrote a violation and you sent this to the client. The client can send this off to the vendor and to the inspector. So now this becomes a public document that you can use to make people aware. So let's tell you, I'm a landscaper, let's say, and I think I'm going to go help this guy fix his fire escape. And it says here, the city official is looking for a qualified licensed repair vendor. So am I qualified now that I'm a landscaper? To do all the work on the repair permit, I got to pull a repair permit. That means I need workers' comp and liability. How many painting guys have liability and workers' comp? They don't. With engineer oversight, oh, somebody's going to watch me? I got to pull the permit, but who's watching me? The engineer is oversight with repair criteria submitted for approval to the official, whether it's a subcode or you guys. They can't pull this permit until you've all agreed on the repair criteria. Which includes what? Square head bolts. Reinforce them or replace them. And what about connections into the wall that you can't see? Verify them or duplicate them, whatever's cheaper to the client. But scrape and paint it? No more. And a lot of times you don't want any painting done on a fire escape until all the repairs are done and signed off. Because now you go into a fire escape, it's got nothing but blotchy brown primer everywhere of all the repairs. And it's very easy for you to find what they did repair and what they didn't repair that had the same problem. Like, hey, why'd you fix this side, but the other side of the tread's no good? It's got rust in it. I can see with my eyes. Let's see if the rest of it makes sense. All connections must be free of internal rust or rot, because don't forget this includes wood. Spot primed and sealed. How many people you know after they repair a connection on a fire escape ever sealed it with 50-year silicone? You know why they don't seal it with silicone? Because they need to bite that apple 5 years from now. Because if you leave it wide open, what's going to happen in it? It's going to rot again. But you seal it with 50-year silicone, what happens to that fire escape? How long before that connection breaks down again in its future? At least 50 years from now. So for the next 50 years on that building, he only has to paint it because he's never going to have a structural problem on that fire escape if he seals it. So we recommend sealing it. All worn material repaired and or replaced, so that means metal that's been eaten, you got to replace it. It's pretty clear here. All supports into the wall, reinforced, repaired, or certified in a fire escape confidence test in lieu of a live load test. So we're telling him right here, that unknown into the building now, I don't care what it costs. You want to blow bricks out, you want to open up sheetrock, you want to drill next to it and put a little camera in there, or if it's faster, you drill a 3/4 hole with a hammer drill. You only have to drill it 8 to 12 inches deep, put an epoxy bolt there, and then make some sort of mechanical connection back to the original, and you just duplicated the connection. Now, do you care about what's inside that wall anymore on the original one?
No.
Or you can just seal it and let sleeping dogs lie, right?
Right.
All right, all square bolts or rivets must be certified, reinforced or replaced due to age in lieu of a live load test. So the only reason why, all square head bolts are 50 to 75 years old. All rivets are 75 to 100 years old. So you start seeing rivets, that's original hardware from the 1900s. That's how old the building is, and that's how old the fire escape is. So by the time you start seeing rivets, those were put in hot. Every single one of those was heated in a fire, thrown up to the guy up there who caught it in this little pan, takes that hot rivet with the pliers and sticks it in the hole, and then on both sides, one guy's smashing it on one side and the other guy's smashing it on the other side. One rivet at a time. So a lot of these riveted fire escapes were put together that day with hot rivets. They're 75 to 100 years old. Then somebody says, dude, we got bolts and nuts, man. Can we just get away from this fire?
Because they melt in
Yeah, they melt. When you put them into a hole,
like a horseshoe.
There's a mushroom on one side and a shaft on the other side. You have to smash the shaft to create a stopper, like a nut to the back end. So you start smashing and squishing it, and they're a pain to get out of a fire escape. Let's talk about the last piece of the puzzle, which is talking about Bridgeport. 50 people stuck on fire escapes. You know why? Because all ladders and cantilevers must be balanced and dropped 2 to 3 feet per second, which follows your code, which says must be single action requiring no special knowledge. It must hit the ground and stay down and must lead to a public way. All roof ladders must be secure. Isn't that for your firemen so they can get up there and fight the fire? No full painting of any fire escape until all spot painted repairs are inspected and certified under engineer oversight and city official permit sign-off. So, how many eyeballs we're now throwing onto these fire escapes? So now let's talk about the painting. Everybody's aware the EPA just came in 2010 and said, what about lead? Inside and outside.
Can't use it.
Can't burn on it. So can anybody burn lead? Can I go inside a building and start burning lead off like the way they used to do in the old days? Said no. So can I burn lead outside on a fire escape? Anything older than 1978 is presumed to have lead. So how many fire escapes you know are older than 1978?
All of them.
All of them. So they all have lead. Here's the beauty. 98% of every fire escape you guys have is bolted. Only a few of them are welded, and the reason why welds don't last very long is because as rust gets in there, they just snap all these welds. But on bolts, a bolt will scream for 10 to 15 years before it finally gives way. So with that being said, how are we going to fix fire escapes? Not with welded, because that's what a lot of these guys did. The only way is by changing the bolts. So you're going to you get to a job site and you see a guy welding a fire escape, what's the first thing you do? You stop him because the law is very clear. First of all, they must be a licensed renovator to touch a fire escape. You know how you get your renovator's license? It's an 8-hour course. It costs you anywhere from $175 to $275. And any company goes to it, and in that 8-hour course, they teach you how to wear the white suit, how to wear the mask, put the little gloves. And in 8 hours, they told you how to collect the chips and how to, put the signs on the window so children don't get the lead chips. And how not to weld on fire escapes. They don't just cover in that 8-hour course fire escapes, they cover interior repairs so that you now have to be a licensed renovator to touch anything that has lead. And that says it right there. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a painter vendor, EPA certified renovator to do all the work as per EPA guidelines due to the fact that all fire escapes older than 1978 are presumed to have lead, unless identified as no lead by a licensed lead inspector. So an inspector from the city, a private inspector, lead inspector, can go there and say, hey, I've tested the fire escape, there's no lead, or there's low lead, enough that you don't have to do with any of this EPA stuff. Entire building will be notified with signage, and all precautions shall be taken to collect paint chips at grade with that plastic. No sandblasting or power-assisted scraping without full fire escape encapsulation. So nobody's sandblasting fire escapes. It's cheaper to remove the fire escape than it is to sandblast it, and all the fight to, create a vacuum to sandblast a 75-year-old fire escape. Nobody would do it. It's cheaper just to replace the fire escape if you get that far. All escapes should be painted every 3 to 5 years, or fully painted every 5 to 10, or as identified by the official. Now, this all sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is just to identify what you guys now need to do, and what you're expecting from the engineers, the vendors who fix them, and the vendors who paint them, right? And this is also what you send to everybody you write a violation. Have somebody here either fax or email this, and I'll send you the Word document, this chief, and you can take all this crap out of the top. You don't have to have National Fire Escape up here. I think I made you one where I put your website over here, I put your information over here, so this is an easily modified document so that it can be used by the municipality.
Just go that code you got down to the bottom there where you got 1028.6.
Yeah.
It's actually in our code F603.2.
Okay. We took this from the previous activity that we've done with you guys, but that's an easy thing to change. But does it say the exact same thing or no?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just
international.
This came from the state code. We're using the international code now. The international code is F603.2.
That's an easy one. But as I mentioned before,
603.2.
You can also take this very same information and you can copy and paste what I just wrote in here. Okay, you can just copy and paste this and send it in an email to anybody. And they're like, hey, what do I have to do? You don't have to send them this document. We just made this as a departmental procedure. It's a very general document. But you can just come in here and because it is a Word document, just highlight this, drop it into an email to the engineer that's giving you a hard time. But otherwise, we're here to say, here's the 3 people that are going to get involved. Now, here's the problem. 75 years it took to basically ignore fire escapes. And that's because 50 years ago, guess what? These fire escapes weren't falling down. They were built to last, but not more than 75 years. Guess what year we're in? The 75th plus year, if not the 85th year, if not the 90th year. So, the reason why a lot of these fire escapes went and got to the point where they are today is simply because 25 to 50 years ago, we weren't having problems with them. Today, we're having problems with them. So now, this is an ignored fact. It's falling upon you guys, because a lot of times in the United States, building departments are not doing their job of keeping up with this stuff. Fire departments are not doing their job either, because it was the bastard child of egress. It's outside, nobody cared about it. You never used it. It's like a parachute in a plane, When you pull it out and check it, and unroll it and make sure everything's good, you don't. So everybody just got real, but now age has finally caught up, and that's where you are right now. But here's a problem. You're going to get 2 kinds of things when you start writing all your beautiful violations out there. You're going to get feedback or fight back. What do you think you guys are going to get right away?
Fight back. Right? We can get fight back.
So here's the thing that you must understand, that all you're doing, and we have the tags, and let's talk about the tags right now.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Can you just explain to me what the load test consists of?
Sure. Simple load test. And I'm going to go, hey, let's use this photograph.
Years ago, a load test when they come in with a bag of sand or something of a certain weight and drop it on the fire escape and see if it would stay there.
Yep. Well, it's all fire escapes then and today need to meet 100 pounds per square foot. So if I have a 3x5 platform, is that roughly a 3x5 over there? See all those guys up there? You can tell how old this picture is. This is a great shot, but is that roughly a 3x5 platform? Plus minus. That's 15 square feet. Times 100 pounds. The engineer back then and the engineer today has to make that so that I can put 1,500 pounds of sand, lead, bricks, not people yet, and it'll hold that load. So 1,500 pounds I can put in a 3x5 square.
Without
and it won't pull away from. I can put anything I want. I can put water there, sand, lead, and I got to do it for about 30 minutes. That's a load test.
Okay.
All right. So and it's very expensive now to move around 1,500 pounds to the next platform, and then also on all the treads. So that's why load tests are very costly, because you're moving around a lot of lead and a lot of weight. And you know what it looks like when it passes, right? Does anybody know what it looks like when it fails? How do you stop 1,500 pounds from going? You don't. It just destroys everything on its way down. So load testing has never been a popular activity, but verifying that it's ready for a load test is cheaper and safer. But let's take a look at these guys, right? The average fireman fighting a fire, if he's a 200-pound man, he's got 100 pounds of gear, 300 pounds. So you know how big a fireman is with 300 pounds total, tanks, whatever. And I have 1,500 pounds that I can put in a 3x5. Can I fit a 300 pound? Can I put 5 fully dressed firemen into a 3x5 square?
Yeah.
You'll fit them?
When you said 5 times, it's 300 pounds.
No, 5 firemen. 5 fully loaded firemen in this little square. Can you get all these guys to hang on and have a cup of coffee on that one platform?
No.
Now, take a 150-pound person average. I need 10 of those people in a 3x5 in order for that thing, and it'll hold. Can I ever get 10 people in a 3x5? No. So these things were overbuilt. They're built beyond whatever the capacity is. Most of your platforms and decks on the back of your house are only built to 60 pounds per square foot. Fire escapes are built to 100 pounds. Okay, so that's what a load test is. So you're either performing live load tests, and he said many firemen here in Newark have performed a live load test and died when that gave way. Well, let's see another fireman that gave way. This happened in Boston. This won a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph. Okay, 1972. He survived. You know how he survived?
He grabbed the ladder.
He grabbed the ladder with one hand. She didn't make it though. And her niece, her 8-year-old niece that was visiting, she survived because she landed on her aunt. So this is what typically happens out there. Now, let's get back to the story of you guys are going to get either feedback, beautiful feedback, thanks for making us safer here in Newark, or you're going to get fight back that says, dude, I can't afford my mortgage payment, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. Now you bring me this fire escape problem. Well, it's an issue that needs to be resolved. So let's take a look at some immediate answers that you can have for anything that has that is a life safety issue or a fire escape that needs to be repaired and somebody doesn't want to spend either $5,000 or $10,000. First of all, we're just trying to identify all the fire escapes. And you guys see all these tags that we have here? During your normal inspections, from now on, every time you hit a building, you are only authorized to put out a yellow or a red. A yellow tag, which has only your information, your city information, is not telling them what's wrong with the fire escape. It's just saying that the fire escape doesn't have a certificate on it and it doesn't look safe. It has deterioration, needs a paint job. If you put a red on it, that means it's got dangling treads. Okay? Can you put a white one? No. Only structural engineers can put a white one because they're putting their name, their signature, their license on the white ones. That says it's a certified fire escape. So every time you're going out there, you're identifying fire escape for the next 3 to 5 years. You guys are going to basically identify the condition of a fire escape. And does it have or does it not have a tag? That's all. Yes?
Now, once we red tag or anybody red tag a fire escape, now you have what you have essentially done is created an imminent hazard.
Yes.
Because you don't have that second means of egress. Okay.
I'm going to cover that. So, red means that you got dangling treads. First thing you can order is fire watch. Right?
Yeah.
Vacate the building. Yeah, but now you got a bunch of people in there and some handicapped people. You got all these stories. All the stories are going to come out. So let me get you some immediate answers for somebody who's got an imminent danger. It's a red one, and they don't have the money to deal with anything. Can you, let's take a typical residential house, back of the backyard, the fire escape's on the back side, and the dangling treads. First of all, can you order immediate repairs to the fire escape done by a qualified vendor? So it's an ornamental iron worker. That's a qualified vendor. It's an ornamental iron worker with engineer oversight who's going to tell them exactly what to fix. And can he put the tread back and check to see if any of the treads are ready to go? With engineer oversight, can you do emergency repairs and make the fire escape functional, not certifiable? With engineer oversight. Okay? So that will take a $25,000 fire escape down to a $5,000 repair, as an example. Okay? And with engineer oversight, now, do you remove the violation when you just make it functional? No. So the violation stays. You've given the owner 30 days, 60 days to work it out with them what they're going to do next, because they got a $25,000 problem on their hands. And they're going to claim that they're on the bankruptcy or they have foreclosure. You name the scenario, they're going to tell you. So now you have the fire escape repairs. They said, I don't even have $5,000. I said, great. Can I take, from a local scaffolding company, can I get for 30 days an average scaffolding tower, which is 3 to 5 stories, for about $1,000 a month? With staircases inside? Okay, so now you say, okay, I have a choice. You got an imminent hazard here. I'm either going to put a fire watch here, or I'm going to vacate the building, or I'm going to order scaffolding that you're going to pay for. And the scaffolding now will get people out of this building while we basically mothball your fire escape until we figure out what we're going to do. Does that help temporarily buy some time that you guys always need? You always need time, right? Can you put some emergency scaffolding up?
I believe we could, with the approval of the building department.
Exactly.
Right.
And with an engineer oversight. So there's all these things coming into play because you're just trying to work with these people, because this is a 75-year-old problem that everybody's been ignoring. You're not going to fix it overnight. But who is this red tag and yellow tag for? If I live in that building and I got a yellow tag, right, on my fire escape, what do I do with my rent to the owner? If I go there and read this tag and it says the fire escape has deficiencies.
You don't pay him.
So I'm going to start holding. So that's a little bit of pressure on whoever owns that building. If it's a red one, it says the fire escape is out of service. I'm going to pick up my phone and say, because you guys are already dealing with the red ones anyway, with life safety issues. The yellow ones are basically a line in the sand. Now, in the middle of the night, there's a fire. The firemen show up, and you guys know this story, right? All the gray-haired guys in this building, because of the firemen that you've lost, have told all the new guys who are fighting the fires, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. Okay? But let's say in the middle of the night, they get there, and they see a yellow, a red, or a white. So if a guy gets there and he sees white tags on a fire escape, can they get on it and use it and get in, get out on the same fire escape?
Yes.
But if they get there and they see a yellow one, are they still going to go back and get their ladder? Yeah, they have all the right to, because it's a yellow. It's not a white. And if they see a red, they going to get on it at all?
No.
So for your guys that are fighting the fire, isn't this an identification program? For the safety of your firemen only, and the safety of the occupants to know what condition, so that they don't have a false idea of what's going on with their fire escape. That fire escape has a yellow or a red, let the tenants know. In case of fire, don't get out on these things because the tag says so. Now when you're walking around and you're putting these tags on, because that's what's going to happen. I could be at this building, turn around and see a fire escape there. I have 25 of each color. I'm inspecting this building over here because I'm doing some inspection. I see a fire escape there. I get there, I determine that it hasn't been kept painted, and I see some rust in the connections. But I don't see any dangling treads. I go get a yellow tag, because you guys are going to produce them here. They're going to be cardstock laminated, punched through 3 holes with zip ties, and you just take this yellow tag and you zip tie it, and you have a place here to put your name and your phone number, right? Because it's already, you put your name on who to contact. And when somebody gets it and they start reading, they have the 3 steps if you get a yellow tag. The first one is contact the official. So your violation is not going to get to them for 30 days. But your tag is already telling who? The tenants and the landlords are going to collect this rent, because here's the new law that we're trying to get across the nation. And this is going to help a lot with fire escapes. We want all rent checks now to be collected through the fire escape. Okay? And all the tenants are going to put their rent checks on the outside of their window of the fire escapes. And that's the only way that landlords can collect their checks. You think a lot of fire escapes are going to get fixed? No. You guys, a question?
All right. Wouldn't this be a liability? There's a fire. I understand what you're saying. But there's a fire. You have a red tag that's out of service, imminent or whatever. Someone, that's their only option out.
Yeah.
Even though we're saying it's a liability, tenants are forewarned, what's the consequences of that? That the inspector posted it.
Yep. No, if you red tag it now, there's other things you got to do. Like I said earlier, that's an imminent hazard. Yes, you got to vacate that location, or you got to have a fire watch posted.
Right, but I'm saying, Chief, even with the fire watch, if there's a fire and I'm in a building, say 13 stories, there's a fire, I got a fire escape. Even though it's red tag, fire makes you move. Right. It's an option.
Yeah.
And you step out on it, The liability.
Who is the liability on whom?
Who is the liability
on whom?
You have a violation. Anytime you have a violation on anybody, the liability rests with the owner. Otherwise, you told the guy vacate.
Right.
Fire watch. Scaffolding, you're giving, but when it's on the yellow, you wrote a violation. This yellow generates a violation that's in the mail now. But sometimes these people are not going to do, they're not going to do anything while it's under a yellow. This is just like you write these violations anyway. You've just left no evidence behind ever in the past that you wrote a violation. It takes 30 days to get to the right person who owns the building, and sometimes it's a bank who's taking it on the foreclosure. You just want to basically. You were here. You weren't even on farscape duty today. You know, you're here on this building, and then you turn around and you look at this thing. It's a yellow. It's not a red. So all you did is okay. It doesn't look well maintained as per the code, and you just write. You're starting to write a violation. It's 1 Main Street. You've just never left anything behind. You are now leaving something behind to help 2 people: the occupants of the building and the firemen who may show up in case there's a fire. Because all we're trying to do right now over the next 3 to 5 years is identify the fire escapes, because there should be a city ordinance that says all fire escapes, just like elevators, need a tag to basically describe the current condition of the fire escape. So it's nothing but a guide for the firemen and for the tenants to know whether or not it's safe to be out on the fire escape. Because when I look, and I'm in this building, I'm a renter, and I walk by this fire escape all the time, this tag is only 7 to 10 feet off the ground. I can read from the ground, because this is 8.5 by 11. That's how big this is up in the air, 7 to 10. That's already 7.
I understand that, but I'm just, maybe I'm stepping out of the box with it, is you're there, you got a fire escape. You got bedroom on fire, whatever, you have an option as fire escape regardless of the fact. Are we saying that it's at your discretion? Okay, I can't go on the fire escape because if I go out there, they got a red tag, I might die that way. Some people get jammed up out a window because 80, 90 years old, you know?
And that's why right now there's nothing happening.
They're going to jump. I mean, that's what happened in the World Trade Center. People jump from 40 stories up. But the thing of it is that our code states that once you cite the violation, that's why it's important to always tell the inspectors to write the violation. Once you write the violation, the onus is on the owner. He would be criminally liable for anything that happens to anybody because of that violation that you wrote.
And that violation is now sitting beautifully on your desk, but a fireman in the middle of the night driving there doesn't know that you have a violation. He's not been forewarned that there's a problem on the fire escape. Your tag that you left there, your yellow and or red tag, is now giving these guys who show up at a fire escape to say, hey, I'm not getting on it because the old guys keep telling me never to get on the fire escape. But then with the new code or the new system here, no, dude, you can get on that one. It's a white one. As soon as they get there, there's a white tag on it. This is mainly for your firefighters to get on it. But at the same time, by you not only writing something on your desk, which could take 30, 60, 90 days to get done, there is a visual tag now getting the owners, not the owners, but the occupants, calling the landlords and say, hey, why is there still a yellow tag on my fire escape? I'm not paying rent this month. So we need to stir the pot to make sure that it's getting some activity. And if I'm a tenant, believe me, I'm going to call the landlord if I keep seeing a red or a yellow tag outside on this fire escape that you guys put up. I didn't put it up. You guys put it up. But every time we get a call for an inspection, when we leave as an engineering company or as a fire escape engineer company, we have to leave a yellow, red, or white. So it comes from 2 people. You guys on your normal walkthroughs, so over the next 3 to 5 years, every time you identify one, you'll put a color. But every time somebody just calls in for a fire escape inspection, every structural engineer and every fire escape engineer is going to have to leave a red, yellow. But instead of having the city information here, we have the engineer's information over here. But the rest of the tag is the same.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chief. Now, we go to the buildings that we're inspecting so that they can close on the property, transfer. What happens when, if and when we tag this? Does that hold up their inspection as far as approval?
It won't hold up the sale on the fire code status, but all it states is whoever buys it bought that violation also. And they're responsible for repairing, maintaining, or whatever the property is. So if you go out and do a fire code status, 3-family building, they got fire escapes, and you notice that there is something wrong with that fire escape, you write that violation. It don't stop the sale of the property. They can move the property with the violation, but whoever buys the property has also bought the violation and is responsible for the repair.
I can answer that also because we get that call all the time. We get a call that says, I'm buying this building, but I want to know how much it's going to cost to get the fire escape done. So what we do is we have the owner, the current owner, pay the inspector to do a full write-up with an estimate of cost, and the fire escape says it's going to be $25,000 to fix it, as an example. They escrow that amount of money in the sale. So the guy either negotiates and buys it as is, but he now that he knows that the cost is $25,000, he drops the sale price $25,000 to cover that, or the guy says, no, it's not going to be $25,000, it's only going to be $15,000. So they escrow the total amount, the worst case scenario price of $25,000 into an escrow account. The sale still happens, and then all of a sudden now the new guy tries to get it done cheaper, and basically the balance goes back to the owner, you know, if they think they can get the job done sooner. But immediately it doesn't stop the sale, is you escrow the estimated amount of the repair. So none of this, oh, you're going to screw me up here, no.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned with, because, you know, a lot of times when they're moving the properties, they, you know, they don't want the glitches.
Yeah.
And then they come back to us telling us that we're holding them up.
Yeah, just escrow it. Just say, hey, it needs to happen because the current guy needs to have it prior to the sale, or the guy afterwards can't get occupancy in the building unless he gets the certificate. So you're stuck before, you're stuck after, but just escrow the amount, but it still needs an inspection. Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, besides the tax, because anybody could remove the tax from the, especially the owners, do you provide the fire department like a test report of what the deficiency?
That's the next page. If you look at the next page, there's the confidence test. It's actually 4 pages. I shrunk them so that they're not usually this small. This is shrunk just for the sake of this.
Okay, so when you have a lot of deficiencies on the fire,
it's all going to be. This is that call.
We get a copy of that.
You not only get a copy of this, you get my photos. Every engineer today works with digital cameras. So we're going to talk to you what a typical report looks like, because so he has to fill out all these yes/no questions. So no longer do I want his opinion. I don't want him to write me an essay. I want him to read, and if you read some of the structural here, let me tell you, the general is about the paint job, but look at the general hard questions that are asked here that really freak out a lot of these guys. So page 1 is all the client information. Page 2, look at the structural review. All critical connections, all critical material connections and or joints are 100% free of all internal rust or rot. That's a statement. I'm not asking him for an opinion. He's telling me that he's verified that every connection on that fire escape is clean of internal rot. And then I start going, the bolts and the rivets, the welds, and I keep going. I keep giving him a list. The joints, the stair stringers, the treads, and look at the anchoring devices. I bring up the anchoring devices. I said, you verified the anchoring devices, or have you duplicated them? So I get those. I even talk about cantilevers and ladders. Are they balanced? And then I even go as far as catwalks, decks, and porches, meaning because a lot of these fire escapes land on a roof, and you have to sort of walk through this maze of crap, and you fall off a one-story roof because there's no clear catwalk. You can't just drop people on a rooftop. There must be a catwalk that gets me to that ladder. And if I have to create a catwalk system that goes up and over AC units, then so be it. I can't be like walking around with little kids. Okay? Now let's take a look at, since we're on that, and then this is all going to stay with you guys. So here's the repair criteria, how to fix. The next thing we do, sometimes you have to rebuild the fire escape or add pieces to it. So his drawings, his typical drawings. These are all things you're supposed to see before anything ever gets done on that building. Okay, by the fire escape engineer or the structural engineer. And if you go to the next one, there's the report. So not only do I have to give you a confidence test if it passes, I have to give you a confidence test if it fails. And if it fails, guess what you want to see? Photographs. Does it have to be pretty like the way that I did it here, you know, with all the write-ups? No. You take any digital camera, will it print 4 per page, 6 per page, 9 per page? So any report that comes with a confidence test from a structural engineer in your area, you want photographs, because do you have time to go all the way down there and do that and look at the stuff? You don't have time. So the report is supposed to come to you so you can speak with Joe Engineer, looking at photos and his write-up. What's going to be, I mean, you already have the answer to him when Joe Engineer says, so Inspector Johnson, what do you want to do? You're only going to tell him 2 options, right? Option 1, which he's going to hate to hear, is
load test.
Load test. And he goes, well, man, I haven't performed a load test in 100 years. Oh. What's the other alternative? How about refurbishing the fire escape? He goes, well, you know, my client doesn't want to refurbish the whole thing. I mean, it's only the treads that are bad. He said, well, do this then. Ready? Change all the treads and load test the platforms. So can you do a partial load test? Yeah. The word load test keeps coming up. If he fully refurbishes, does the word load test go away? Right. Yeah. And he keeps going, but why, Chief? I mean, I looked at the things, the bolts are great. He says, yeah, I know they're great. They could be spectacular. But they're old. And the only way you can guarantee me an old bolt now today is load test it. Otherwise, you can keep your beautiful bolt and back it up with another bolt just behind it. Or if it's faster for your guy to take a little cutting wheel on a grinder and go, zoop, pop that bolt out, put a Home Depot bolt back in, can I avoid the load test?
Yes.
Otherwise, I want some guarantees. And then the guy starts talking to you about, oh, what about the connections in the wall? Well, there's only one way to verify connections on the wall. Load test their platforms, and if they rip out of the wall, then they were bad. Or duplicate the connections into the wall and avoid a silly load test. Otherwise, the code is very clear. Load test it or satisfy my my curiosity about this thing. Because you know who I'm saving? I'm saving occupants and I'm saving firemen. And the majority, 75% of the time, it's always firemen on these things, not occupants. Because they got out another way. But right now, you're not doing anything to make my my firemen feel warm and fuzzy all over. Question?
Yes. Are you identifying markers?
Yeah. So
Now, who
again,
would do that?
the engineer. When he does his report, he walks through and he's like, because he's going to get Charlie Brown fixing the fire escape sometimes, you know, because even though the owner got the contract, who does he send? Right? So that's why the engineer has to go there every now and then and identify. And it says right on the confidence test. Ready? That's why it's called engineer oversight. On the confidence test, it says right at the top. And by the way, this confidence test, if you go, is a confidence test. This is our confidence test that was copied by Seattle, by Tacoma, Springfield, Chicago. So you can go to seattle.gov and download this exact test. So this is nothing more than a test that's already out in the public domain. Okay? So your question was on the
Just on, I was just curious.
oh, the markings.
Yeah.
It says right here, all defects and violations, and it's right here at the bottom on the confidence test, and this is for the engineer to sign. It says all defects and violations must be identified on the fire escape with spray paint of a contrasting color or in a detailed drawing of the fire escape. So the engineer will either draw it all out and say, fix this, and fix that, or do you think with a $2 can from Home Depot, he can just walk along and say, psst, 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 and just marks all the rusted connections. So that way, the vendor who's fixing it under a permit can't say, oh, you didn't paint that, you didn't tell me that. I marked it. And I photographed it. And I did 3 visits anyway, so you don't think he's going to be able to catch somebody trying to sneak the job? Because he's supposed to do an initial inspection when they start the job. He's supposed to show up. Hey, how's it going? Let's see if you guys follow my criteria. Yep, all these treads, all these connections, okay. And then he's supposed to do a surprise visit somewhere in the middle, because he told you he was going to. And you can do a surprise visit too if you wish. And then he needs to do a final visit when they say, hey, we're all done. Because he's got to sign this confidence test and put his little seal in there and sign off and saying and guaranteeing all these things. No more opinion letters. He now has to sign a thing that makes statements. And if this is a false statement or he's falsifying a statement, who's in trouble now? Who's the liability?
Yes.
Let's talk about the bolt. And who's, if I load test the fire escape, what kind of liability do I have? After I load test it, if it falls down the next day, kills occupants and firemen, what kind of liability do I have? After I load test it. Yes, sir. Do I have any liability?
If you signed it and
No.
certified.
No, I didn't certify. I load tested it.
You load tested
and it passed.
And it passed.
The next day, a bunch of people got on it, and the thing just collapsed to the ground.
Nope.
Do I have any liability?
No.
Nope. Not one. Now, just to show you the power of a bolt, I go there and I changed all the bolts on the fire escape, and I reconnected it back in the building. And I signed one of these documents, and I certified it. The next day, there's a big fire, and all the occupants and all the firemen, the thing collapsed. Do I have any liability?
Yes.
No, I don't.
No.
The bolt company does. I'm still going to get sued. But who am I going to sue? What failed? Did I fail?
The bolts
failed. The bolts failed. Something sheared. I mean, they gave me, bolts made out of butter, or they gave me, I don't know what, but I bought these bolts, and that's the only thing. Can I do anything else? Because once you change your bolt, the only thing that can fail now is the bolt. So if all of a sudden the next day, which is very unlikely, I'm just using this as an example of where my protection comes in. If anything happens on something that I've certified with a new bolt, and that bolt is made by a manufacturer here in the United States, who owns the liability on it?
The manufacturer.
The manufacturer.
If you use the right
specification
bolt.
Right.
If he meant this, yes. If he
Well, I had an engineer oversight, and he told me this bolt.
Okay.
So do you understand that the word guarantee and the word certification are going to be together, but no engineer is going to use the word guarantee. But his protection is during a full refurb, is the bolts and the connections into the wall from Hilti is the engineer's protection. But if he does a half and half, if he does all the staircases but then load tests the platform, the load test releases his liability on the platforms and the bolts releases liability on the staircase. Do you understand? So this is a doable thing. This is not, oh my God, you're asking too much of me, because they're going to come at you, the engineers, they're like, oh, you're asking for word guarantee. And, dude, then if you're afraid of the word guarantee, then just load test the fire escape. Yes.
Where is our liability? Once we write out the violation,
right here.
We're not liable. We've done what we need to do.
The moment you write the violation, as he mentions, the moment you're at the site, you write a violation, the liability is already on. The notice onto the owner already eliminates all liability from the city for anything.
Where an inspector is liable, if the inspector goes there and see a violation and don't write it, then the inspector can be liable. But once you write that violation, the owner is liable. If you go to a place, say for instance, you go to a place.
Falling off the building and
after the violation, you're all done. It can fall off the building.
No, but they complied. We all went back out. They gave the certification. If there was a certificate needed to be issued, we issued it under our name. The fire official signed it. We're not liable at that point?
Because everybody that was supposed to do the right job based on the criteria that we talked about. If everybody followed all the steps, you're not going to have any issues.
But this is important here, though. But say, for instance, we receive a field services notice from maybe one of the field units, and they say the fire escape is bad. We go out there and we look at that fire escape, and the owner says, "Oh yeah, I know about this. They told me when they was here. My guy is coming in tomorrow," and you fail to write the violation. You say, "Well, the guy's coming in tomorrow. I'm not going to write this violation because his guy's coming in tomorrow to repair." If you leave there and something happened that next day, now the inspector is liable for that because they were at the scene, they saw the violation and didn't write it.
But you write on the violation in the very beginning and whatnot, repair. But you also liable and whatnot. You're not off the hook and whatnot just because you write the violation. You sign it and whatnot, and the guy is unabated the violation. If you haven't notified the building department, if you haven't made it an imminent hazard and whatnot, and it hasn't been enforced to it, because what they're going to ask you when the lawyer gets you in the court, because you're going to court and whatnot, and when you get there before the grand jury, the first thing you're going to ask you, are you an expert? What else did you do, inspector and whatnot, when this was not abated? What else did you do? Did you write other people? Did you go the next step and whatnot? We may not be punished for it.
No, I think we understand that. I mean, we had a case like that yesterday.
Yeah, but don't tell them that they off the hook, because they're not.
You're talking about a small window of time here, okay? From the time, let's say we don't get the field notice or we're called over the air, we respond. Like you're saying, he's saying, okay, I'm going to get it done. You do come back to the office to write the violation, but you've been out there, 3 o'clock they called you, you went, it took you some time, you come back here. I mean, the day is pretty much over 5 o'clock.
And you just don't have time to write it that day.
No, let's say you get to the computer and you do write it, but we have a system that we send it regular and certified. We put it in the mail. I mean, what do we do at that point? And we've given you our copy of the violation that we're sending out, or you did sign it. You understand? Like
well, you off the hook for that violation.
Okay.
Not so much that the owner has received it, but you have already written it. It's in the process of being served.
Is there any way that we can have something where we give them at least a ticket at that time? Like a ticket, if you do meet with the landlord, or we stick something in the
well, that's what he's talking about with the tag.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about with the tag.
It's almost an identifier that you've been there.
So, Chief, we're going to have those tags.
Correction notices as well.
So we're going to have the tags.
That's another class.
Oh, okay.
And then when we tag it, we call you and confirm it. You maybe make a note in the book that, okay, Inspector Adams went here. She inspected a fire escape. She notified me of what her findings were. She tagged the building.
Well, hopefully, Sophia, and we've been talking about this for a number of years, hopefully the inspector will be able to do that on the scene with our computerized system. You will be able, in your notebook, you will be able to enter that information, and we will already have it once you come in and put it back into the computer. So we haven't gotten to that point yet, but hopefully we will be able to do it just like
getting back a little bit to old school, meaning right now the computers, until they catch up with us, every now and then you just need to save the life of a tenant and the life of a fireman. When a fireman gets there and he sees a standard yellow tag or red tag, and when you read on the red tag, you know what it says that you have to fix it? ASAP on a red. You know how long you have to fix a yellow? 30 days to comply. It's right on there. And you basically are already working, because the first person you're going to be speaking to is not the owner. I mean, you're going to get the information, the owner's going to call you. But you keep telling the owner one thing. Did you read the tag? It says, yeah, contact the official. You've done that, so. What's the second thing it tells you to do? Have it inspected. Can you have your engineer call me as soon as the inspection report is done? Well, what am I going to do? You want me to fix that tread? You want to fix that bolt? No. I'm not going to tell you what to do. There's no liability. You're not telling me what to do. Yeah, but you wrote repair, paint, test. Repair what? Exactly. I don't know what to fix on that. Your engineer's going to tell me. Your engineer, through the reporting process, he's going to get back to me, and we're going to come up with a plan within the next 30 days to get this thing done.
A lot of times we find that when we tell people to do things, they don't know where to start.
Right, so that's...
They don't know where to start.
So send them this.
Okay. Mail it to them.
Mail it to them. You know, steal this and copy and email it to them. Hand it to them. Have some of these in your hands. You know, you guys can take all this wording out of here and just put it in your own documents. You know, something with the letterhead of the fire department, the fire prevention. It doesn't have to be in this document, but the word is there for you. I'm giving you the permission to use this wording. It's just general wording. If you're an engineer, use this box. If you're a repair guy, read this. And if you're going to paint it too, then read this. And keep calling me, because everybody is always coming back to you. Does any sprinkler system get touched without them speaking with you guys? Any fire alarms get touched without them speaking with you guys? Any fire pumps get installed or taken out without speaking with you guys?
Yes.
Well, they shouldn't. I mean, a lot of times there's a coordination. Right. We're trying to say right now that because while they're fixing these fire escapes under a paint job, this is where they've been hiding. For 75 years, you guys have helped by writing scrape and paint. I have been forced to be working with people who say, I don't want to repair this. The fire official only wrote a scrape and paint. What's your price? To scrape it and paint. But I'm like, but, I don't want to hear it. They'll hang the phone up on me. But you write the word repair, paint, test, and you leave one of these tags, what's going to happen? They just start reading what it says. Oh, what do I do next? Let me send you this. I don't understand it. Let me read it to you.
Chief, what you're saying, so what you're saying is now, more than that, because I write paint, scrape, repair, and whatnot, and what it has to be done. What you're saying is bypass the fire subcode, don't send that recommendation down to the fire subcode? That's what you're saying?
No,
do it all here?
No,
don't notify the fire subcode?
No, it's one thing that we always should do, like, is tell them you have to require a permit for that. That came up yesterday at our construction board of appeal. They say, did you also tell them they have to pull a permit to do that work?
Right.
Yeah. So when you do that, you are notifying the fire subcode, because that's who they got to get their permit from.
Yeah, they got to get the permit and whatnot, but if they fail to do it and whatnot, what you're saying, what I'm saying is this. Everything that you're saying, what I'm saying, when you write that violation and whatnot, when you find that, do you notify the fire subcode and whatnot, make them aware that you got a dangerous condition over there and whatnot at building X, building Z, and whatnot? You're saying don't notify them. You saying
no, I'm not saying that. What in most cases, I tell the inspectors we'll write a violation, but we'll also make a referral. It either be referred to the building department or the fire subcode.
That's what you got
So
to
it's certain type of inspection you make a referral. But what I was also referring to is certain types of violation that you run into that you have to note as a part of your violation. You must obtain a permit from the building department.
Chief, if I may, I'll help you with this answer. Okay. We've got this across the country, right? When you write the word scrape and paint, forget fire escapes. Scrape and paint the door, scrape and paint the wall, scrape and paint the window. Is a permit required. Right? So that's the scapegoat for everybody in the country. Ready? As soon as you write the word repair, forget fire escapes. Repair a porch, repair a door, repair a window is a permit required.
Yes.
I'm telling you to write you will never write anything ever in your violations from now. You will start every violation when you walk up to one, even if it's just these a paint job. You start with what word? Repair. Automatically, doesn't that mean you have to notify the subcode official? So as soon as you start with the word repair, it's a permanent activity coming. So you just say repair, paint, load test. There's already a critical activity going on here. But the word repair automatically means that the subcode official is getting notified either through referral, but nobody can move forward. And by the way, you have the guidelines. These are called, this is not code. This is policies and guidelines, which is, you can have a million ideas of, and it says right there under the repair guidelines, you know, suggested in layman's terms, the official is looking for permitted repairs under engineer oversight. So there's already, the engineer oversight comes from this guy, the permitted repair is going to knock out all these guys that are florists who are now fixing fire escapes with a can of paint out of Home Depot. So the word repair, paint, test automatically makes two people notified. You wrote your violation, repair, paint, test, and now the subcode official is being notified under referral or directly that there's activity that's going to happen on this building, and if he wants to go down there and write some additional violations, he can. Because what did he get the word? What did he get from you? The word repair, which to him means what in his coffers? It means money. But you write scrape and paint, guess what he never got to see? You know how much money is sitting? If you have 1,000 fire escapes, and there's 20 grand on each fire escape, just as a number, it's 2 million. Well, 20 million, right? 200 million. Jesus, I'm going to have to do my math when you add 3 zeros. So there's a lot of money that's sitting there for, you know, what is it, 2%, 1% of the permit fees, plus fines and penalties. Now let's get back to that other point. When you start putting these yellows and these reds, how many people you think are going to just in 30 days resolve your issue that took 75 years to totally get all messed up? So if you read the document, but as soon as you put that tag on and there's a line in the sand from you, I said something on here that says, contact the fire official, and it says repair permits, violation fines, or certification fees may apply. What's that mean? If this guy where you put a yellow tag 6 months ago has never called you yet, neither has his tenants.
I mean, he's in violation.
Do you have a per diem?
On the penalty.
Do you have a per diem?
Yeah, we have a per diem that's not enforced. When is the last time, you know, whatnot, we really done got somebody, unless they seek to get the, pay the penalty from us or come to us. We ain't took nobody to court.
But John, see, you misunderstanding.
I'm not misunderstanding.
Well, you asked the question. Want me to answer it?
Yes, answer.
Okay. What it is we do write penalties. People do come in and pay penalties. The breakdown what John is talking about is in our municipal court system, whom the presiding judge down there don't think that our violations belong in municipal court. So we've been trying to go back and forth with the judge on this, where they should be. But in our fire code, it does say that we can take our penalties to Superior Court. Now, we would rather do it in municipal court. It's easier for us. But we have told the judge that if we can't get this thing settled where we can get them in municipal court like we used to, then we're going to have to find out what procedure it is for us to do it in Superior Court, because that's what the code says.
All I mentioned there is that you have an income producer in there. Right. And all I'm saying to you is right now is to say, these people are not going to fix these fire escapes overnight. No. They're going to take 6 months or 6 years, but that's okay, because as long as that tag stays there, who's it helping? The occupants and who else?
Firefighters.
And by the time they finally buy it, sell it, trade it, do whatever to that building, don't they have to come back and settle up with you? Because the fine was put in 6 months ago or 16 months ago. There's fines and fees that they have to resolve to either buy it, sell it, transfer it. You're going to get, so let the meter run. Because right now, are we out as a group here trying to fix fire escapes or just identify them for now?
We identify them now.
Or identify them either as a yellow or a red, and who's the only one that's going to tell you it's a white? Structural engineers, right? So you guys are just identifying fire escapes for the safety of the occupants and the safety of your own firefighters, and you're done. Well, when are you going to start repairing these things? Well, we have to deal with a Superior Court issue. We have to deal with some issues down at the building department for them to start enforcing some of these things, because it's down there, but they don't have enough staff. And don't worry about it. It's going to get done. It took 75 years to screw it up. You guys ain't going to fix it in 7 days, nor 7 months. This is going to take 3 to 5 years, and if the local ordinance says, just like every elevator must have a tag, imagine an ordinance that says every fire escape in Newark must have an identification tag stating its status. Whether it's good or it's bad for the welfare of the occupants and our firemen, we need to know that immediately, not via computer, not via some chip, not via some on the way there, let's whisper it to everybody. When they get there, there is some sort of tag that says to them the current condition. If it's a yellow or red, grab your ladders, don't get on them. If it's white, use them. White, it's all right. Do you understand? So that's the only problem. Be aware that this is not going to take, it's not going to happen over 3 days. This is not going to happen over 30 days. It's going to take a while. So, Chief, I don't know if you want, I'm just going to go quickly through this.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if anybody wants to take a quick 5-minute break just to go get a water, go get refresh their coffee, or does everybody just want me to go into this?
No, keep going. Anybody got to go out, they just go out and come back.
So as you guys see, this is what happened on that fire. But let me tell you where fire escapes rot. Fire escapes rot from the inside out. They don't rot from the outside in. They rot from the inside out. So let me show you some of the catastrophes that are out there. This is called live load testing. Chief, you know live load testing because firemen, do you happen to know their names? So maybe some of these people recognize their names?
I doubt if anybody, we're talking about over 20 years ago, the last time we lost a fireman on the fire escape. But they have an event for
Harry Halpin.
Halpin, but nobody, I doubt if beyond Walter, nobody would know their name.
Molino.
So let me tell you what who fire escapes gets. Fire escapes get firemen. Fire escapes get people. Fire escape also gets vendors who fix fire escapes. One of our guys out of Chicago, his father fell off a 7-story fire escape doing this is not him, but doing this exact situation. While fixing a fire escape, he fell 7 stories to his death. How many times do people remember back before air conditioning, where did you used to sleep to cool off in the night? On the fire escape, so here's some shot. On the roof. Fireman's worst nightmare is when all hell breaks loose, what do they got to use to get out of there? Fire escape. Whenever you have people, kids, people sometimes can't, for some reason, can't go out the front door. Where do firemen go get these kids or these people out? Through. Fire escape. Whenever there's an event, a parade of something, where do people go out to basically, screamers and throw papers? Fire escape. So these are all live load tests. And lives are loading these things, and then guess what's going to pay the price in case there's something bad? The people. So it's the firemen, the occupants, the vendors. Okay? Guess what people are also doing on fire escapes nowadays? Having parties. Hey, there's a party upstairs. You go through the inside or you go through the fire escape to get to the party upstairs. So fire escapes are a great party place. How about weddings? How many people are taking pictures on weddings on fire escapes? How many students hang out on a non-smoking building? Where do they go smoke? Students hang out. Where? Live load test. Ready? This is a fire escape. There's 3 of them. I'm taking a picture on one that looks just like this one, and there's another one right over there. See all the rust? The owner of this building, before he turned it into 5 condos, him and his son did the roof for themselves. They took all the fire escapes off a little bit, lifted it, put things on it, put it back, had extra bolts.
Is there any
This, which used to be here, is when a buyer and a seller, the 2 real estate agents, plus one of the trustees were on the fire escape, and it fell only 10 to 12 feet. Nobody got killed. That was a live load test. Now nobody got killed, but guess what's the first thing you reach for when you're under all that rubble? Broken bones, blood everywhere. What do? You grab the phone, you dial.
The lawyer.
You call your lawyer, and you ask your lawyer to call 911 because you're going to stay there because you need to be photographed. It's called a fire escape lottery ticket. But you have to survive. All right, so that's where it was. That's where it landed, and the fire escape. So all 3 were ready to collapse. There's another live load test that happened here in Iowa City. I'm an expert witness on cases, and there was 3 kids up there, a girl and 2 guys, watching the fireworks from the 3rd floor of this building that is nothing but housing for students. How many of those you see around? Right? That somebody converted a big house into, and there's like 16 kids living in there. Right? Now, the owner had to fix a window, and he fixed a window situation over there in vinyl, and he put the fire escape back. Guess what he put it back with? A screw. It was through bolted, but guess what the workers put it back with? A lag screw. So those kids fell from there, onto the roof, onto the ground. That's their blood, that's them. Live load test. And then they threw the contents in a field 8 blocks away. And this is where we found the lag bolt still in the connection, still in the piece. Now I'm there, but look around me, it's nothing but lawyers. Those are all lawyers. Okay? And then they put it back, and they threw bolt in, and they put a leg on it. Another live load test. In Boston, this is a 5-story building, and this is a 5-story building, but because it's on a hill, your 5-story is already over their roof, and they have a roof deck on this side, and so somebody had an apartment, 26 years old, him and his girlfriend came back 2, 3 in the morning, drinking. On a summer night, what do? Keep drinking in your house, or you go to the neighbor's rooftop deck? Rooftop deck, the phone rings, the girlfriend says, hey, I'll get that. She comes back and tries to answer the phone because there's no rail here. She falls. Boom, 5 stories. Dead, 26 years old. Missing pieces of a fire escape. So who inspects fire escapes? Engineers. The law is very clear. Structural engineers and or others acceptable to the building official. You know what some states will allow? They'll allow architects. They'll also allow fire escape engineers. You know what a fire escape engineer is? That's somebody that's licensed by a state to basically inspect fire escapes. So let's see if there's any licenses out there. And right here, if you go on the credentials page, it shows that there's only 2 licenses in the whole country right now that you can get to touch a fire escape. One's out of Boston, and it's put out by the building department, that's a G3 license, and the other one's out of California. What about everybody else in the middle? What do you do with those people? So we're trying to change the code now through the National Fire Escape Association to make a certification process nationwide to make not only structural engineers able to inspect fire escapes, but you can also get an inspection certificate through the National Fire Escape Association to inspect fire escapes as a fire escape engineer. So properly trained inspectors can inspect fire escapes. Yes, question?
There was an incident in Storage, I don't know if you're aware of it. They, I guess the guy welds, he does welding, he's certified, and the fire escape fell down on him like the strings. Are you familiar with that?
Just happened?
Now, he said about 3 years ago, I was out with him yesterday.
Okay.
And he said that the fire escape fell on him. He went to pull the strings and check them, and he's like 250 pounds. There's no liability. He said that he can't sue anybody or something. How does that work?
How does that work?
He's certified.
No.
How does it work with something like that?
Let's say, I got a case. I got a case here that happened in New York City, where we were an expert witness, where a fireman went to the 3rd floor or the 5th floor, fell through the fire escape, and got injured. He snapped his spine or did something to his vertebrae. He was about 26 years old, and he was no longer a fireman. The uniqueness of the case was that it wasn't just an injury. You know, during work, he basically sued the owner directly for negligence. Because the fire escape, it was proven through our investigation that nobody had done anything for 25 years. So there is a time limit. I think it's only 7 years, but let's put it this way. If you can prove that on this fire escape, okay, there has been no work done for at least 25 years, the neglect. Now, I'm just playing I'm playing Prairie Mason here, so don't. But if I can prove that you haven't done anything to this fire escape for 25 to 50 years, you and the previous owners, then I'm a vendor and I show up at this job site and I'm going to do the repair work. The owner didn't hire an engineer, didn't hire somebody of qualifications to say, this is very dangerous, don't even get on it. You should have some scaffolding on this thing, temporarily shoring it up while you then work on it. If the owner hires directly the vendor to fix it, and it's a welding guy, and that welding guy steps onto that situation, and the thing collapses, who's at fault? Is the vendor qualified to make a fire escape repairs without engineer oversight? He can fix anything. You know, you can go there into a house and start taking out. You can start taking out 2x4s because the owner told you, hey, I want an open space over here. Start taking all these walls out over here, right? When you're doing reconstruction of a building, what is required when you're doing modification to interior walls?
One that you got to permit, one that have
Permits and plans by who?
An architect.
An architect.
Or building engineer, because you might take out a bearing wall,
You're right.
joints,
So
or
if
whatever.
all of a sudden the owner hires Joe Contractor and they don't have an architect in the middle of it, being the smart guy, and the contractor gets hurt, That's the liability. Okay? So, and there's only a few cases out there on fire escapes. So if you want is you have that person speak with some other people that have done cases. So we're going to get to the lawyer case that happened here in New York. So you may want to speak with that same firm because they settled. As soon as we did that case, the owners settled because with negligence they were wide open to all their assets. Because it wasn't a case where somebody got hurt during a job. So it wasn't just about liability and I'm going to get paid for the rest of my life. No, the kid said, dude, you took me out and there was other things you didn't do on this fire escape. So it was a case that was settled out of court. Okay? So let's find out who else. So the architects are inspecting fire escapes. They think sometimes you guys are inspecting fire escapes. And every now and then you do when you say scrape and paint and fix the tread. Guess what you've just done? You've just become a structural engineer. When you tell them to fix that one tread. Never, ever, the first word on every violation that automatically gets the building official involved, repair. Paint, test. You've hit all three things in your code. So, fire escape inspectors, I just covered that. Right off the bat, guys, this is in Fort Lee. Fort Lee, right? The fire escape pass or fail? Fail. All right. So I got called by the secretary because they had an engineer's report that looked like this. This is an engineer's report. You know what he wants me to do on that fire escape? It says there's 4 things. Fix one tread, unbend the platform piece at the 3rd floor, and scrape it and paint it. I went there, did my inspection, and I failed it. Look at all the pieces this is how big it is. Who's right and who's wrong? Right. Now, this is a guy with 8 years, experience, 70+ years old. This is a piece of paper. This thing, the reason why it had a violation is because during an alarm that went off, a policeman fell through one of the treads. And when the firemen got there and all this stuff, everybody started freaking out. But then all of a sudden they had this that said the fire escape, only 4 of these things, then give it a great scrape and paint. So this is what you got to be worried about is these opinion letters. These opinion letters ain't worth anything. This will put firemen on the ground and hurt them. But if you have a confidence test, which is statements that all the interior connections, all internal rust has been removed. Can you see internal rust on all these connections? So if that guy signed one of these confidence tests and somebody got hurt here, can you sue him? Because he lied on a document. You didn't ask for opinion, you answer these questions. That's what a confidence test does. Now here's a confidence test that exists in the nation. There's one out of California. I had to get a license out there. It's $1,000 for the license, and every 3 years you got to give them $1,000. The first page is just the information about who you are, who the client is, and where the building's at. The second page, because I use that as an example, the second page was just an opinion letter. So I came in and I created my own confidence test that had check boxes, and it had these, see this yes, no, or not apply? We did this class up in Seattle, and why did Seattle bring me in? Because 4 guys fell to the ground from the 3rd floor on a fire escape that was lag bolted. We showed them the same test, and they applied, and so we can give the chief the contacts in Seattle. But they went and they used my questions, and when you read my original and you read the confidence test, it's the same questions. So these are generic yes, no questions asked of the inspector, and here it says all internal rust must be removed. It talks about the cantilevers, it talks about the walls. Isn't that all that's here? So these are things that we're showing nationwide, and in 2012, we feel very confident that the code is going to be changing nationwide, and it's already started this year. In Portland, Oregon, they made it a state code, everything that we talked about here, and it goes into effect January 15th. So we're very proud of Portland basically stepping up and taking this, not just for their city, they took it and they applied it into the state. So it's 1 state down, 49 to go. We'd like to see this happen here because I've taught at your academies. I've taught at Sayreville, Bergen, Camden. And I've been told about, oh, you got to see this official, you got to see this state guy, this should be... You know what happens when you try to work from the top down? But from the bottom up, you know what happens? You know, the Fort Lees, the Edgewaters, the Newarks, the Elizabeths, you know, they are all doing it just like we're doing right here. They're making it happen in their city. Because by the time it does finally become a code change, it may be 3 to 5 years from now. But we're not going to try to make this from the top down because it's all political. Everybody wants to put their little button on it and stuff like that, and it never goes anywhere. So If all this just makes sense, then we just apply it. This is just industry standard documentation to be used as guidelines. Or if you adopt it through ordinances, a lot of the stuff, and that's why I'll put you in touch with Portland. I'll put you in touch with Seattle, because they're all fire. And you're just asking them, how did you guys do it without offending the code? So through the ordinance or the fire, they call it, they also have another name for it, fire, is it another administrative rule change or something like that?
Administrative code change.
There you go. So, now this is, we also did Tacoma. And you know what they came up with that I liked? They came up with, does that look like a similar test? Yes, no's? So they basically used the confidence test. So Tacoma came up with their version, but Tacoma went one better that I liked. And it basically now, this is what's stopping the engineers from lying. No more opinion letters from engineers. They got to sign yes, no's. But here's what Tacoma did that I like. They created also the annual checklist. What's this mean? You will have 5-year inspections on your fire escapes. You will also have yearly inspections because you check the buildings out every year anyway. But you know who does this inspection? It's the owner. The owner or the building manager. You know what 3 questions he has to ask? Are the bolts and the supports damaged or rusted? Is paint in good condition? And all moving parts, ladders, stairs, windows, and doors operable? 3 questions. Is that a... And when you do your building inspection every year, guess what you want at the end?
We'll see that.
You want that signed by him, not by an engineer, not by anybody. And when you have a 5-story building with a cantilever, right? You're talking to the manager or the owner, and he says, "Oh, my fire escape is great." Say, "Great. I'm going to go downstairs. I want you to go to the 5th floor. I want you to climb up over the roof, climb down, walk down all the stairs, operate your cantilever, let it hit the ground, and walk away and give me this document." Then you just go downstairs. You're going to scare the shit out of that guy. Excuse my language. But if it's a white one, is he going to be scared?
No.
Can he hire somebody else to walk it? Can he have his management company walk it? But you're basically, aren't you proofing it every year that the thing is operational? And who's telling you it's operational? You telling them, or they're operating it for you that day? And you're waiting for it at the bottom. You're not going to climb over the ladder and climb down the stairs. He says it's good. Every year you get to prove it. So I love this Tacoma one, and we made it. The Tacoma one is right here. So we merged the Seattle one with the Tacoma one, and there's an annual. And this is not by a structural engineer. Structural engineers are every 5. By the way, if you do a full refurb on a fire escape in lieu of a load test, what's the average life cycle before you ask for another load test, do you think? Full refurb plus a paint job was done. Spectacular. All the joints were sealed with silicone. Well, the rule is every 5 years you're supposed to demand a load test, right? Or some other satisfactory evidence. But the national average, if you fully refurbished the fire escape today, retied it back into the building, 20 to 25 years. For forcing a load test.
You gotta wear that.
Okay? Here's what a tag looks like in Seattle. You know what they want in Seattle? They want them 19 inches wide, 11 inches tall.
Chief, this one's so good.
7 to 10 feet off the ground. But this is what a yellow and a red looks like when your firemen show up. This is on an actual fire escape, and this is what a white one. I don't think they need to be that big, but you can make them as big as you want. You can make them posters if you want. Otherwise, I think if you keep it 9.5 by 11, you have your own laminating machine here. The thing that you want to find out is the very last one, the white one. You have to have a very good lamination on it, and you have to have inks that don't fade, because believe it or not, in 5 years' time it eats. So a lot of times these are done on a white 1/8 thick plastic with non-fading paint. So that's done through a Kinko's, but you want a white. So can you guys see how, for the owners and or the firemen, how quickly they can identify the condition of a fire escape? And it also has who did the inspection. This was RFA. This is in Seattle. It tells you when the inspection was done and when the next inspection. So it's 2014. It was done in 2009 in June. 2014. So when you do your yearlies, can you immediately know when it's due for reinspection? So this is like an elevator tag. Everything is right there in your face. You don't have to go back to your files to find out. It's all immediate, okay? Let's take a look at rust. This is where rust comes from, guys. Starts in a connection. This is a juvenile facility for kids 17 and younger. Okay? Now, you know how you guys used to walk fire escapes? You will never walk fire escapes again. You'll always do your inspection from the bottom because you're going to be able to see, a couple of things that are markers when you walk up to a fire escape originally. But this is what happens when you walk up or walk down a fire escape, not knowing its condition. And this is for the fireman or you, but mainly it's the fireman in the middle of the night fighting a fire and trying to get off this thing. This is what they run across. Ready? A tread that's full of rust. The connections are totally shot. And we have this going on. This is a 3-pound hammer. So you have a 3-pound hammer test, which is equivalent to you walking up the fire escape.
Welcome to Fire Escape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide.
So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today.
Academy Inspector Training video. Here we are in Newark, New Jersey, and we're doing a little bit of training. This is a nice red one that shows a lot of the rust, but every connection. Another problem that you have with these type of buildings is when they put the vinyl up, guess what I can't check? The connection to the wall. The vinyl blocks. So I have to duplicate the connection because I can't even verify it without tearing vinyl off. So, but any evidence of maintenance? How about the treads? Any treads ready to give way?
Yes.
So treads in the back fell.
Right up here.
We got a lot of debris, but that was from the fire, and now it is chained. So typically they'll chain them up after a fire so nobody breaks in. But any evidence? Yeah, but that's after a fire. They usually do that so nobody breaks in to go get stuff out of their apartment because it's a danger. Oh, of course, yeah. If you find any that's because people don't want anybody breaking into the apartments, and it's an imminent hazard. But you got treads ready to go. You got a lot of debris. The pinwheel, the ladder's all bent. All original hardware on this one.
It's not even connected to the pinwheel.
Yeah, not even connected. It's bent, smashed. So these are typical. But again, the main thing we're looking for is original hardware and any evidence of maintenance. And this one doesn't have any either. So Fire Escape Academy, Inspector Training down here in Inspector Training videos. Here we are in Newark, downtown, walk-arounds. So with rivets, older than square heads or younger than square heads? Older. So this is a 75 plus minus building. Any evidence of maintenance?
None.
It takes 25 years on average to lose all your paint job. This was lost its entire paint job. How many years has it not been painted?
About 75 years.
Okay, now look at all the connections. Look at all the rivets. Look at all the joints. The ladder, is the ladder tied off with a wire? See the wire tie off on the ladder?
Oh, right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
See that somebody? So is that a lot?
See the wheel.
Well, the wheel is way up there,
No,
straight up.
I can't see it.
Yeah, no, it's inside those two angles up there.
Oh, okay.
But doesn't matter with all these wire ties on it. Look from here. Look at all the wire ties on the ladder. I know they're trying to stop people from pulling it down and breaking in, but who are they really stopping from getting to the ground?
Me.
The firemen. If they get trapped up there, they have to come down. They're going to put all their pressure on that, trying to break that stupid wire, and it's not going to happen. What about this, the rivets? Are these rivets showing any bulging, any scaling, any, I mean, we got quite a bit. There's no evidence of any maintenance anywhere.
Right.
So now, this is typical of a building, that only the first floor is active, nothing else is active. So how do you get your men not to get on this thing so that they surround and drown the rest of the fire escape? Otherwise, on buildings like this, with a man, you think he's making a good rent on this first floor? Right?
I don't know, he own that whole all the way around.
Right. So if he owns the building, he wants you to save his asset, meaning if the top floor is burned, you think the ground floor is done?
Yeah.
So this really now needs to stay on this building for the firemen only. There's no tenants, there's no lawyers living up there anymore.
Right.
So the fact that the ground floor is occupied, but he's not doing anything about the upper floors, isn't it putting a life safety issue here to the firemen who get onto this fire escape? Because nobody knows the status of the existing fire escape. So either you have to sign this fire escape over and say, put signs on that saying, do not get on the upper floors ever. So doesn't this become a surround and drown?
Yes.
If this becomes a surround and drown, does the insurance company allow that to happen on somebody's insurance, to have signage that say surround and drown?
Nope.
So this guy needs to make a choice. He doesn't have to really do anything inside the building, but he needs to make it so that the firemen can get out of this building. So this is one of those that on a case-by-case basis, you guys need to write a violation that says, is there an imminent hazard issue here with the firefighters? Not for the tenants, there's no occupants here. But is there an imminent hazard danger? Now, let's say the guy agrees with you and they set up a plan. Would you allow 100% refurbishment of the fire escape but no paint job, just to make it safe for firemen to get out? If you repair it minimally, would you allow that?
Yeah.
It may not remove the full violation, but will it at least appease the fact that this guy's waiting for the resurgence or a change in the economy or whatever? Otherwise, it must be structurally sound, must be kept painted and maintained at all times. That's the code. Whether he likes it or not, he doesn't have the choice not, to maintain the ground floor, but not maintain the upper floors. He doesn't have that kind of right, does he? So this is on a case-by-case basis. You need to discuss this with Chief Stewart and ask him, what do you want to do about the fact that the guy has tied off the ladders and that this fire escape doesn't look like it's been structurally reviewed in 25 plus years?
And we just got a field notice out about this also. The firefighters came out.
What was their concern?
The safety of it, about them going up.
Yeah, so there you go. So now they're concerned. So you got to write a repair paint note, on the remaining. Can you see any treads ready to go? So minimally, this is a yellow, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's all you got. And you are correct. They're basically repeating what we just talked about now.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, yeah, the ground floor is probably sprinklered and probably alarmed and probably meets all the codes. But the rest of it, like they say, we can't use it to get in and we can't use it to get out.
Right.
Forget the occupants. There is no occupants.
There's a lot of garbage up here.
So this is a perfect one. It already speaks for itself. So it needs to be a violation on this particular one at the Coco Boutique. Fire Escape Academy, Inspector Training. Here we are in Newark, New Jersey. Inspector Training.